Hi, hello and welcome. My name is Estrella and I go by Chromatica Fine Art, but sometimes I go by Chromatica Art because not all my art is fine. Sometimes it's garbage or just not great. So yeah. Anyways, today I'd like to talk to you about how to start oil painting. So the first question is artist grade or student grade paints? Honestly, what I prefer is artist grade. If you're someone that's serious about oil painting, then I'd recommend that you go artist grade. Student grade paints are typically fine. However, it's only really if you're someone that is interested in learning how to oil paint for a class, or it's just a project and you're not taking it too seriously afterwards. My advice comes from looking at things in an investment sort of way. I prefer artist grade because although student grade and artist grade look very similar straight out of the tube, you can tell that they're different when you start to mix them with white or with any other color. They have different tinting strengths. Oil paints tend to last a long time because you can mix them with mediums or other oils in order to thin them out or stretch them out a little bit. However, I would not recommend buying oil painting sets that are cheap and about $5 to $12 because when you go cheap, you won't get a perfect idea of what it's like to paint with oil paints or with that medium itself. And sometimes this can lead you to hate a medium. But in reality, you actually hate the results that you're getting with a cheap brand. And if you know where to look, not all brands are very expensive. The next question is, what paint brands should I buy? I, like many others, like to spend my money on art supplies, and I like to be a little bougie about it and get something that I kind of can't afford. However, what I can afford currently is the brand Gambar paints. It's a brand I really recommend because it's very good for your money and it doesn't compromise on quality at all. Now, it's important to know that none of these brands that I mentioned have sponsored me in any way, but I would please love for them to sponsor me. Gambar is mid-priced without compromising any quality, and if I had all the money in the world to buy expensive paints with, I honestly wouldn't look down on Gambar. I would still buy their paints. The results are pretty great. Another brand that I personally use is Blue Ridge Oil Paints. I get them online and they're recommended by YouTuber and artist Andrew Tishler. They are his preferred brand to paint with. Now, where do I buy my supplies? Or where should you buy your supplies? Well, the advice is simple. Shop locally. Yeah, no, don't shop locally unless there's a very great deal or there's a fantastic sale. Because as much as I care about the environment, a lot of times local and smaller companies charge way more for art supplies than online retailers like Blick.com, which is a retailer that I highly recommend and is a retailer that I personally use all the time. It's where I get any supplies that I can, especially paints. I never buy paints from a craft store or from any art supply store because as much as I'd like to support them, I can't support them unless I support myself first. You can shop from Michael's, which is an American craft store for all you international people. However, I personally only really shop there once or twice a year when they have their semi-annual sales regarding canvases. They'll discount their canvases a few times a year at about 45% off, but on their semi-annual sales, they'll discount them up to 75% off, which is a great way to buy your canvases because sometimes you're just an artist that's just pumping out art and you're gonna need many surfaces to work on. Michael's also offers a great everyday deal for bulk packaged canvases, which I always snag in every size that they have because what's important about your canvas isn't so much the price nor the brand, but about how taut a canvas is, which is how tight the canvas is. You don't want a canvas that's very loose. Unless you have the tools, that's something that you can't really fix, but you can alter the surface that you're painting on. And in later videos, I'll actually make a whole video about how to prime a canvas for oil painting and for acrylic painting. Although they're sold in bulk, they're taut and they have a really good frame, which is something that you want to look out for as well. Some artists prefer to buy brands like Frederick's, and if you can afford to buy it, buy it. However, to me, I'm not super concerned about my canvas warping over time. Some people are at a skill level where they're considering the longevity of their materials. They're wanting more archival materials, so they're willing to invest in a proper canvas to ensure that result. I also frequent Hobby Lobby, which is an American craft store, because they always have a 40% off coupon, and I like to save money. I like a good deal. What canvas brand should I buy? Well, as a beginner, you don't really need to worry so much about what brand of canvas is, but like I said, just make sure that your surface is taut and the frame is well done. You also don't really need to worry so much about thread count unless that's something that you're interested in and you want a smoother surface. When you become a professional, or when you become a more experienced artist and have some money in your pocket, you can think about buying some more premium surfaces to paint on, such as Belgian linen instead of canvas. What about brushes? What kind of brushes should I buy? As a beginner, you should have a variety of brushes. You should also have a range of brushes and different sizes. My favorite place to buy brushes from is Rosemary & Co. Rosemary & Co. are an English specialty brand of brushes. You can find any brush you want with them. They're handmade and very affordable. However, shipping can be a bit of a downer because it's in England. But if you live in England, you're very lucky. Catalogs are free. Go on their website and sign up for a catalog, and it's very fun to scroll through and just see all the brushes that you could possibly buy. You also want to buy cheaper brushes for rougher work and initial stages because it'll wear and tear on your brush. Also, don't get lazy with cleaning. I'll teach you how to clean your brushes properly. So how exactly do you clean your brushes? This is a complicated question, and you probably come from acrylics, and it's completely different than cleaning oil off of brushes. There are a few methods to cleaning your brush. Some artists like to use drying oils, which are different than non-drying oils, to clean their brush. Drying oils are, for example, linseed oil and safflower oil, while as non-drying oils are things like canola oil and olive oil. Other artists like to use solvents to clean their brush. Solvents, for example, turpentine. But don't get cheap paint thinners or solvents because they're completely different than artist grade solvents, and they're also much more vaporous. I recommend Gambling's brand Gamsol. Gamsol is a low odor petroleum distillate solvent that is especially made for artists. Turpentine and solvents are hazardous, and they can make some people dizzy if they have prolonged exposure to it. Never buy industrial solvents. They're not the same. You might also be interested in looking into other cleaning products like artist soap or brush cleaners and preservers. Now, the brush cleaning process. You're going to want to take your brush with paint and remove all the paint with a napkin. Some people use cloths, but honestly, I find it a hassle to wash in the washer. If you want to be less wasteful, go ahead and use a cloth. Once fully dirty, place the cloth in a bucket of water to avoid spontaneous combustion. More on that later, but that's just being cautious. That rarely happens, but it can happen if you basically soak your entire rag in solvents. But if you're using a napkin, go ahead and spray the napkin with some water. Once the brush has been removed of all of its excess paint, you're going to want to clean your brush in Gamsol. I like to keep my Gamsol in a jar that can be sealed. It's very helpful when your jar has a ring inside of it to help you remove excess paint, and you're going to want to seal the jar once you're done. After your painting session is done and you're not going to paint for a while, you can wash your brush with oil painters / artist soap to remove the stains and the excess solvents. You can then shape your brush and place it out to dry. Wait for your brush to dry before using, because water and oil don't mix. Palettes. What kind of palettes should I use? There are plastic, ceramic, wooden, and glass palettes. Some materials aren't compatible with oil painting, such as ceramic and some plastic palettes. Ceramics. Paint thinners and other harsh chemicals can ruin its surface. They're also not a smooth enough surface for your oil paints. Ceramics can be cute, but they can also be pretty expensive, which is why you don't want to ruin its surface. Plastics. Some companies will tell you directly on the packaging not to use their plastic palettes with oil paints. Once the oil paint dries, it can be very hard to take it off of plastic surfaces and make you ruin it. Cleaning plastic palettes can be a hassle and time consuming. Wood. Wood is traditional and cheap. However, you'll need to buy a wooden palette with a specially treated wooden surface or do it yourself. I suggest you buy one that's already treated. Personally, I don't use wooden palettes, glass palettes. Glass is the holy grail of oil painting, and it's the type of palette that I and many other artists use. Why? Because it's super easy to clean, way easier than wood. My personal oil palettes are made by New Wave and come in different colors. My advice is to go with a neutral gray backing in order to perceive your colors accurately. Glass palettes can be expensive, but they can also be used with acrylics. How do cats always find the worst spot to sit in? I need that script, and she's got her booty on it. Ember, you got your booty on my script? Huh. Yeah, I got mine at Hobby Lobby with the coupon. If you want to make your own, I advise you to look up a tutorial. Many other artists make their own glass palettes. You can also use tear-off disposable palettes if you're just lazy or on the go. So, how do you clean a glass palette? You're gonna want to use a razor blade. This is a razor blade paint scraping tool. It's very cheap and affordable. If your paint is wet, simply scrape or wipe off. If your paint has hardened, you're gonna want to scrape harder or just spray it and then scrape it. If you want it pristine afterwards, use glass cleaner, white vinegar, or what I use, Gamsol, to clean and wipe off your palette after you're done. Mediums. Mediums are complicated. Very complicated. Mediums are so complicated that they deserve their own video. But honestly, there are plenty of great videos out there, and I'll have them linked in the description. Personally, I use and I like Liquin products. Here I have Liquin Original, Liquin Fine Detail, and Liquin Impasto. Varnishes. You do want to varnish a painting once it's finished. Varnishing helps protect the painting from dirt, dust, and everyday use. It also enhances the appearance of the painting's colors, values, and overall finish. You want a varnish that can be easily removed decades down the road, in case, you become a famous painter or something and somebody wants to restore your painting. There are many varnishes that you could use, but I recommend two: Damar resin and Gambar. The problem with Damar resin is that you have to wait until the painting is cured to actually varnish it. Curing a painting usually takes around 6 months to a year after its last painting session. My recommendation is to use Gambar because you can varnish the painting once it's dry and firm. Gambar is a varnish that allows oxygen to reach down through the layers below it, allowing it to oxidize and firm. It's practical and widely used. There's a proper way to varnish a painting, and so I recommend you look up videos on how to do that yourself. However, if the video shows the artist pouring varnish directly onto its painting, skip that one. Don't listen to them. That's not the way how you do it. That's not how you do it. You're gonna ruin it. There's liquid forms of varnish, and there's also the spray can form. However, the spray can form can be pretty expensive, so I recommend starting with the liquid form. Easels. There are 3 types of easels: tabletop, studio, and field easels. You'll eventually want all 3. Tabletops are for small spaces. Studio easels, what I've got, are the most popular but the least portable. Studio easels are mainly for indoor use. Field easels are the most portable. They're great for outdoor use and for plein air painting, but they're not to be used for big pieces, so consider getting yourself a studio easel first. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you so much for watching my first video. I hope all of you learned something new and found this very useful. I will link below articles and resources that I find useful and that I think you will find useful too. Oil painting can be so complicated, but it's pretty fun to dive deep into. However, as a beginner, it can be kind of daunting. However, I hope that doesn't deter you from what is an amazing medium. If you found this video interesting, or if you found me interesting, please take a look at my Instagram at Chromatica Fine Art, or take a look at my Patreon at Chromatica Art, because not all my art is fine, or just hit the subscribe button or the like button just to keep in touch with me. And I'll see you next time. Thank you so much. Bye.